Views expressed in this podcast are solely those of the participants. The hosts make no claim to be literary experts, and their opinions are exactly that, opinions. All creative works discussed or reviewed are the intellectual property of the creators of said stories and is being used under the fair use doctrine.
To Of Swords and Soulmates, a podcast where we read, watch, and discuss reminisce stories. I'm one of your hosts, Mari, and with me I have Kelly.
Hey everyone, it's Kelly, and we also have Ashley.
Hi guys, it's Ashley. We also have Jonathan.
What's good? It's JP, loving the life of luxury.
Today we're going to be discussing Assistant to the Villain by Hannah Nicole Mirror. But first, some news, as always. First thing I had that actually this episode is going to drop on the 12th, I do believe. So tomorrow, on the 13th of September, on Netflix, the Uglies TV show is going to drop, which is based off of a 2006 Scott Westerfeld YA dystopian series that I loved back in the day. And I'm very excited and I hope they don't mess it up. Did anybody read this? Anybody else read these?
So no, and I didn't know it was dystopian, which probably would have piqued my interest at the time, like that they were released. So I saw I don't know if it was a preview or just like the cast lineup. Is Joey King in it?
I don't know who Joey King is.
Oh, I'll look that up.
By name. Yeah, I don't know by name. I know that the chickie from the Kissing Booth is in it. I don't know what her name is, but the main actress, like the one who was the female main character in the Kissing Booth, she's in it. I like her. Not enough to remember her name, apparently.
Yeah. No problem. We'll figure this all out together live.
It looks like Joey King, Chase Stokes, and Jillian Murray.
So Joey King is the one I'm thinking of. That's the actress I'm thinking of. Yeah, Joey King. She plays Tally Youngblood, the main character. It's an interesting series. I want to say there's like 3 or 4 main books, but then there's a few auxiliary books. It's set in like a future world way past our time. And so you have a whole different society. And you have a little bit of that. I think of it as a Twilight story idea, because that's where I first remember hearing the story of like you are what you are until a certain age. And then something is done to you and then you become acceptable to society. In the Twilight Zone, the old Twilight Zone story I'm thinking of is like person, I think it's a woman, looks like normal or whatever, like standard. And then she undergoes a surgery to become like everybody else. And then she's got like this pig face snout because that's what everybody looks like in the Twilight Zone story I'm thinking of. I can't remember the name of that episode, but it's the old one, the black and white one. In this story, it's the Uglies. Everyone's an ugly until you reach, I don't remember if it's 16 or 18. I want to say it's 16. And then you become a pretty and you live in the other part of the town after you become a pretty. And so it's a lot of commentary on society, on what we value, on what we think of aesthetics. And mind you, this is 2006 is when the first one was written. And some of it goes into like popularity, like your whole standing in society based off of popularity on basically Instagram, TikTok type service. It's an interesting world. So I'm curious to see how they do it, how well they do it. And I hope Netflix like does the whole thing and not just like the first book and then cancels the series. Because it is Netflix.
Yeah.
So.
Is it a Netflix movie or a series, though?
It's a series, yeah. The other thing I had was kind of interesting. So I heard about this through Xiran Jay Zhao's Instagram. That's where I follow her. She's the author of Iron Widow. We've talked about her a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So her and several other authors of either of Chinese descent or that had expressed things that were anti-Chinese were excluded from the Hugos. It was a whole big thing. Xiran Jay Zhao did a wonderful, like, multi-part video thing on it on her Instagram. I would highly recommend you look up her stuff if you're interested in that. But basically because of it, among other people, her and RF Kuang were disqualified from the Hugos because just because they had said things that were anti-current Chinese government. And so George R.R. Martin, who wrote, Game of Thrones, has this thing that he does. It's called the Alfie Awards. And he's done this multiple times when things happen with the Hugos where they do unfair things like this. So basically George R. R. Martin will host the Alfies, and it's named after Alfred Bester, who was the first person to ever win a Hugo. And he basically does his own awards, and he gives these authors Alfies. So he invited Xiran Jay Zhao. He invited her and RF Kuang, who wrote Babel and Yellowface. I think those are two main ones. I don't know anything else she's written. I want to say the Poppy Wars, but I might be wrong. But anyways, he invited both of them to like dinner and like a whole Alfie award show that he made for them, which I thought was really sweet.
Well, what I find interesting about all of this kerfuffle with the Hugos, it's not like the Hugos have not been controversial in the past.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I remember back in, was it 2020 or 2021? Hugos added video games as a category. So like video game writing plot, whatever, for a video game as a category. And man, what a stink that created. It was so bad that they never had that category again.
Oh, wow.
You know, giving more credence to the age-old argument about our video games art.
I mean, of course they are. Somebody has to come up with those stories and those images and that sound.
Right.
Interesting.
So it's not like the Hugos have ever not been, you know, a pillar of non-controversy.
Yeah. This is the latest one that I know of. And like I said, her Instagram is the first one that I heard about it through. And she did a really in-depth like presentation of everything that happened with it. Yeah, it's not great. It's not great.
Listeners, you should look up the history of the Hugos and the controversies in the past and see that really the Hugos are not the beacon of science fiction awards or fantasy awards that they're made out to be.
Yeah. Kelly's spilling the tea. I know that there's the Hugos, and I know like that people rag on like the Goodreads awards because people say that it's just a popularity contest rather than a quality award. What other good literary type awards are out there for that kind of genre, for like fantasy, sci-fi, that kind of thing?
Well, there's the Nebula Awards, which are probably as big as the Hugos because the Nebula Awards are confined to authors in the United States. So it's like a
national
country-specific science fiction, right? National science fiction and fantasy. But they're fairly prestigious and mostly been without controversy.
Yeah, I think of the Newbery, but I think Newbery's just for children's books, right? It's for younger books, like middle school. Yeah, middle school, younger.
Right.
Okay. All right. The last little bit of news I have is that Rebecca Yarros announced that the paperback version of Fourth Wing is going to be released on September 17th, and that it was going to have a new chapter in it from Zayden's point of view. Very exciting.
What a cash grab.
I thought it was a good looking book.
Yeah, in her defense, she did say that it was going to be available free, like that chapter was going to be available free towards the end of the year for anybody who already has their book. It's just not going to be available to everybody September 17th, I don't think.
Right. But if you're a true Fourth Wing fan, you're going to have to buy that paperback so you can read that chapter ASAP.
I will wait. I've got my hardcover. I'm good.
Chapter?
Yeah,
or
new
does
chapter.
It just have? It's a new chapter, or it has the same old Zayden's POV?
I mean, I think it's supposed to be his POV, but it's supposed to also be a brand new bonus chapter, is the way that I read it.
Yeah,
you're going to have to get it. And then read it to me.
We'll work on that.
Thank you.
Anybody have any other news or stuff they want to bring up here?
No, I'm very excited to review the book that we read.
Me too. All right, so we chose this book. I know I had heard about it on like TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, that kind of thing. And it was on my list, on and off my list for I don't know how many months. It was just like I would put it on my list, on my TBR list, then I would take it off and I would put it back on and I would take it off because the cover is cute. But it was kind of described as this workplace romance thing, which is not my jam. And then finally, Ash read it and really liked it. Mm-hmm. And that's what convinced me to like permanently put it on my TBR.
I was going to say, like, how do things end up? Like, what's I'll put it on and then you take it off. Cause does it hurt anything to have it on your TBR list?
My TBR list is very long and I will never read it in one lifetime. I will not read everything on my TBR, and books keep getting published and they sound very good. So I every once in a while go through and I'm like, do I really want to read that? Nah. And I'll take it off. So
priorities.
Yeah. You gotta, I have to have a way of taking things off my TBR other than reading them because you can only read so much. All right. So Assistant to the Villain was published August 29th of 2023. And it's a story based off of the author's viral TikTok series. So that series, she did that series first and then wrote the book afterwards. I'm going to read the synopsis and then we can get into our points.
What was the series on? Did she do like skits or something?
Yeah, so it started out as like skits and maybe like almost like a comic book like situation, and it just gained so much popularity that she ended up writing a book.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Was it like live action skits?
Yeah, like she does little tidbits. Even now she does it.
Is it one person?
Yeah, I mean it's usually her, but I've seen her friends join in occasionally.
I'm going to give her a follow on the TikTok.
She's very quirky.
Yeah. Yeah, I like her. I like what I've seen of the, like I had seen some of her series before I read the book, but I also didn't want to like watch too much. I was like, once I fully set it on my list as a TBR, I'm like, wait, I'll read it first and then I'll go back and watch those if I want to. So, okay. So synopsis. Assistant wanted. Notorious, high-ranking villain seeks loyal, level-headed assistant for unspecified office duties, supporting staff for random mayhem and terror and other, capital D, dark things in general. Discretion a must, excellent benefits. With ailing family to support, Evie Sage's employment status isn't just important, it's vital. So when a mishap with Renadon's most infamous villain results in a job offer, naturally she says yes. No job is perfect, of course, but even less so when you develop a teeny crush on your terrifying, temperamental, and undeniably hot boss. Don't find evil so attractive, Evie. But just when she's getting used to severed head suspended from the ceiling and the odd squish of an errant eyeballs beneath her heel, Evie suspects this dungeon has a huge rat, and not just the literal kind, because something rotten is growing in the kingdom of Renadon, and someone wants to take the villain and his entire nefarious empire out. Now Evie must not only resist drooling over her boss, but also figure out exactly who is sabotaging his work and ensure he makes them pay. After all, a good job is hard to find.
I love this so much.
Me too.
I don't want to go first. Can we make the boys go first? I'm dying to
Yes.
Boys go first.
Overall rating, non-spoilery.
Not non-spoilery? Overall rating. I gave it 4. I picked up real like friendly, delightful vibes from this book. It was 95% warm. And then, I don't know, I'd kind of like to, I could see this being like a television show or something. Like I would like that. I don't know what it looks like. Like, I feel like Awkwafina should be in it though.
Oh yeah, that would be a good thing. Okay, so after we get through all this non-spoiler stuff, I want to go through and be like who we would cast for each of the people.
Ooh, I like that. Good job.
All right, Kelly, what did you think?
I gave it a 3.5.
High praise.
Well, I enjoyed it. I thought the comedy parts of it were amusing. I liked some of the character development. The only problems I had with it was some of this seems like it was kind of inspired by some stuff that's already been done. I can't remember the name of that movie. I tried to look it up, but I forgot to. One where Sandra Bullock and Hugh Grant, where Sandra Bullock is like his personal assistant.
2 weeks notice.
2 weeks notice. Yeah, and there was some, very big similarities there, as well as a lot of similarities between the dynamics of like Iron Man and Pepper Potts in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. The witty assistant who really is running everything behind the evil, evil or not so evil genius. So there was a lot of those similarities. But I mean, overall, I thought it was a good book. It was definitely something different.
I'm so happy he liked it, you guys. I've been dying to know all week.
Yeah, I very much liked it too. Overall rating 5 stars for me. It's a rom-com, which already that's my brand of romance for the most part. Like if it's going to be a romance movie I'm watching, it's going to be a rom-com. So it's a rom-com with like magical stuff in it. I'm sold. Like, I don't know if it was the author or if it was the publishing house. They described it as Once Upon a Time meets The Office. And then in somewhere else, it was described as The Office meets Princess Bride. And I'm like, yes, both of those, all of those. Yes.
All of those. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a fun rom-com with like magical bits in it. What's not to like?
For sure. I mean, full transparency, I stumbled upon this book. Like, I'd seen some talk about it on TikTok and stuff, but I didn't have an overwhelming desire to like dive into it. And so I stumbled, like, it just happened to be available on Libby. It was an audio book. I was like, I need to listen to something. It's not, I don't do that often. And I was, full transparency, I was not impressed. Like, in the beginning, I was like, I don't know if I can do this. And I'll tell you that I ran out of time and the book disappeared before I finished it. And I was like clawing at my neck like a crackhead. Like, what do you mean? What do you mean this book is gone? So taking a note from Mari, historically, I have given this book 5 stars because I read it again for this podcast and I enjoyed it so far more than I did the first time around. And I think that was a really thoughtful process of yours, you know, to award 5 stars, not just because of the quality of the book, but because it's something that you want to read again and plan on reading again or have read again. So I don't think I've given a 5 stars to anything so far, in this process, but I loved this book. Evie was there. She was going to stick around. She was working hard. She was doing, and it was not about recognition. It was not about, you know, she wasn't trying to climb a corporate ladder. No, this was Evie Sage and the villain. And I am chomping at the bit for book 2. This is a 5 for me.
All right. Does anybody else have anything else they want to say before we go to the spoilery bit?
Nope.
I'm good. I'm good. Yeah.
Kelly?
So from this point forward, dear listeners, we will be discussing spoilers. So if you do not wish to be spoiled or you haven't read the book yet, go ahead and skip to the end or come back when you've read it and you're ready to hear the spoilers.
Who's not spoil me? You know what I think? I spent my whole life trying to find me a corporate powerful woman, like I did actually, so that I can be spoiled.
How's that going for you?
It's pretty good. I'm not gonna lie. I'm living my best life. I want for nothing. I have all the books anyone could ever want.
It's a good life.
It's good to hear you admit it, sir. I accept your praise.
So what do we think fantasy rating on it? Fantasy world building.
Oh, I'm gonna give it a 3. I didn't feel like there wasn't a ton of, it felt like regular stuff. I couldn't really determine what the setting was. Like it was odd. It was like, at one point I was like, maybe these roads are dirt and the houses are like a shamble. But then I was like, they have job fairs and shit. So maybe it's not so terrible. There's like an HR department, you know, and it's like maybe it's, I struggled there. And then, you know, like I really didn't feel like I got the depth that I wanted in world building from it. So 3.
Okay.
How about you, Kelly?
I also gave the fantasy elements a 3 because while there was some interesting stuff, I feel like, and maybe the author intended it to be overly generic, like it's a generic fantasy setting almost. There was nothing in particular special about any world building or anything like that. So it was a very localized, generic fantasy stuff. And so, yeah, I mean, a 3, we had the usual stuff and didn't think there was anything particularly great or particularly bad about it.
I initially was going to go with the 3 for fantasy because I was like, oh, well, you know, there's some magic in it. Like there's some magic users and there's the like magical creatures, you know, like the dragon and all that. But then I started thinking more and I'm like, well, though the whole ink thing is kind of cool. Like the magical properties of the ink is a little bit more original and specific to this world. I'm not saying that I've never heard of it before, but it was pretty well done, I thought, in this. And it was pretty well developed. And then I was like, and also there's kind of talking animals. Like Kingsley kind of talks. He's got his little signs. I'm like, well, that pushed me over into a 4. So I had to do a 4 for fantasy.
Look, Kingsley was adorable.
Kingsley is
definitely
the
adorable,
cutest.
but it was specifically said the reason he's intelligent is because he's actually a prince.
Yeah,
like
yeah,
the
he's
villain
enchanted.
said that in the book.
Yeah. Which
so
is
it's not like
magical.
he was a real talking animal.
Yeah, and I don't. Where did he get signs? Like, how do you have so many signs? Where
Magic.
does he keep
His little
those
froggy
signs?
pocket. His little froggy pocket.
His little froggy crown.
He's a magical
spell called plot.
Yeah.
The same way
And
his little crown stayed on him. Yeah. He was adorable. I love Kingsley. Ash?
Listen, you're not going to get any complaints out of me. The fantasy was a 4. I get where the boys are coming from, and I do agree with Jonathan that if they put half as much effort into this movie or TV series that is inevitably coming, it's already been picked up and announced. If they just put half of their little pinky finger, Game of Thrones money into that shit, it's going to be fantastic. And I'm thinking like Ella Enchanted the movie.
Yes.
Fantastic. Yeah. It is absolutely YA. Like, don't get me wrong. There is nothing overwhelmingly spicy or dirty about this book, but I think it's going to be visually impactful. And while I do agree that, we're missing some world building, and I think we got very little insight as to, the why shit's going down the way that it is. I think we got very high level view of that. And again, like a crack addict, right? Like, I just want more, like, tell me more.
Yeah.
What's next? So, but I think, you have your variety of creatures, you have your variety of magic, you have magic users that are good and bad, you have, the malevolent guards, and, I have zero complaints about the fantasy in this book, and it would only be better if she had built the world a little bit more. But I have no doubt that we're going to see it in the movie or the TV series. I forget which one it is.
And the second book. Like, I think it's going to be more
second book.
in the second book. Yeah.
Wholeheartedly. And Aquafina should be Becky.
Yes.
That's what it is.
There is a movie?
It's been picked up.
A TV show. Yeah.
Yeah.
A TV show was picked up by Legendary.
I don't know what Legendary is, but I saw that. It was announced like 8 months ago, like last December. So it's got to be. Yep. And there's competing, right? Because these are both Entangled books. And Entangled, Maria, I don't know if you knew this, that it's 100% like run by women.
Yes.
I didn't realize that until tonight. So kudos. We love Entangled. But like Entangled is also Fourth Wing in the Empyrean series. So I'm sure, they're going to want to plan that, accurately. They're not going to want to have to, like, quote unquote, compete with each other for airtime.
Exactly.
So I'm in. Sign me up. Take my money.
That being said, right. Like, I think I would envision something like Assistant to the Villain TV show being a easier to produce, like lower cost than Fourth Wing in terms of like costumes, production value, so this would be a good, like, we have a season of Fourth Wing, we have a season of Assistant, just to kind of have good TV on all the time.
Very interesting.
Drop the ball, guys. Not like you guys.
Wednesday vibe out of this book.
Yeah. They could do, it doesn't have to cost a lot. They could spend some money, in the CGI for the magic part of things. But otherwise, where do they go? They go to the castle, they go to the woods, they go to Evie's house. You know what I mean?
Right.
We're not looking at an ass ton of different locations I'm super stoked for it. The magic is a 4 for me. The fantasy is a 4.
Yeah.
I got a little dabble of everything. There was allusions to merfolk because of the paper that the invitations were on.
Oh, you're right.
We're getting a little bit of everything here. It is a hodgepodge. I'm here for it. Take me to the party. I want to go to the party.
I just like to add that I can buy my own flowers.
That's cool. So then you don't need to be spoiled. That's what you're telling me.
No, spoil me.
No. You can buy your own flowers.
Spoil me. Talk to me for hours.
Yeah.
What do you mean you can buy your own flowers?
I was just goofing around with like, take me to the party. I can buy my own flowers. Woo! Write my name in the sand. No, it's a pop culture thing from Hannah Montana.
Oh,
from Miley Cyrus, but not Hannah Montana.
Have you seen the show? They're the same person, actually.
Spoiler.
They're the same person. They're the same person, but that song was not part of
knows
Hannah
it's the same
Montana.
person from episode 1, scene 1.
I've seen bits and pieces. I don't know that I ever saw a whole lot of it. So yeah, that one went over my head. What about romance?
What romance? 1 star, only because I don't want to give her none. I'm going to give her the 1.
What?
Wow.
Okay.
There's no romance. There's
Woof.
nothing. Exactly. Woof. Where it was a whiff, not a woof. Dang, they missed it. They missed the mark. There was so much. Ooh, they got close, but there was no romance. There's a hint, like they like each other. They're in like with each other.
Oh no, he's in love.
No, they're clearly in like. They like each other.
He said it.
Oh.
Yeah, there's no romance. There's nothing romantic about it. He was like, he squashed it. He was like, oh, we were about to then kiss. And then Kingsley was like, calamity in the background. Come on, man. You know what I mean? Like
Jonathan.
his sign, he was like Wile E. Coyote with a sign that just said calamity, noise. And then like all of a sudden the kiss went away and he was like, thank God that happened. I never want that to happen again.
How fast did you read this book? Because I think you somehow fast forwarded through all the romance.
I read it slower because I allowed Ashley to join me for some of it.
Oh, okay. Okay, Kelly, what did you think?
Wow, that was a really hot take there, Jonathan.
Yeah, a lukewarm take, just like the romance.
I gave the romance, I really kind of went back and forth between a 3.5 and a 4 on this. I ended up with a 3.5 just because I've never been a big fan of the workplace romance genre type stuff. But I thought the romance was fairly well done. It was a nice, slow-paced development. It wasn't like a sudden, one look and I'm in love forever and blah, blah, blah. It was definitely a nice, slow build up to it. It's just the workplace romance type thing is just not my cup of tea.
Okay. For me, it was a 4. Workplace romance is not my cup of tea either. Like, I just don't like workplace romance. But I love me a grumpy sunshine pairing.
Ugh. Every time.
100%. Yeah. And these are grumpy sunshine. I love the touch him and die, touch her and die thing, the protectiveness, the fierce protectiveness thing of it. They did that for each other. I liked the pining, reluctant lovers kind of thing they had going on. I loved the little tornado nickname that he had for her.
Oh, I thought it was so cheesy.
It's supposed to be.
Love it.
Wait, hold on, though. We keep going back to the workplace romance. Are we not Jim and Pam friendly here?
No, it totally had Jim and Pam vibes.
I mean, it's based.
Like
it's influenced by The Office.
What about Han and Leia? Are we like Han and Leia friendly, or are we like? How about Ron and Hermione?
Han and Leia were not co-workers. They were comrades in arms in rebellion.
They were workers for sure. They were both doing the same job.
No, there's a difference between fighting with someone in a war and sitting in an office with them.
You're working to get the team, drive the team towards a goal in any space you're in. And at some point, she was ranked higher.
Anywho, the little tornado nickname, I love it because I love whenever there are like actual character specific names where everything's not like sweetie, baby, honey, where it's something very specific to like their experience. So yeah, little tornado was very much what he thought of her.
Scruffy little nerf herder.
Yeah, I mean, love the scruffy little nerf herder. Yes. And the bratty princess, like he thought of her. Yeah. But I like them building trust too, like slowly learning to trust each other. And then by the end of the book, it's like unequivocal trust, like unbreakable trust they had with each other. My only thing that I didn't like as far as romance of this is there's that whole, like, I don't know if I would call it the miscommunication or just lack of communication. Like they're both pining hard. They're both lusting after each other. They're both dreaming about each other. Like he literally thought he was dreaming when he woke up with her kissing him in his arms and he called her love. Like, come on. But they just need to talk. They need to verbalize. But that's what rarely happens in rom-coms, you know, because then you have all the tensions gone.
Right. That's a very overused trope in coms, is the two characters would get together and everything would be fine if they would just talk, but then you wouldn't have a movie or a story.
And not just rom-coms. I think a lot of romantic tension, like classic books too. I mean, you have Jane Eyre has that, you know, it's gothic, but it's got that romance, that pining. Jane Austen, which is some of which her stuff is arguably proto rom-com, but it's got a lot of that pining, but they don't actually talk to each other until the very end. Yeah, I mean, it's a way to stretch out that tension in the book. So either way, it's a 4 for me for romance. I thought it was good.
I felt the romance was a 4. I'm struggling.
You felt that it was a 4?
Yeah.
Richard, how am I not romantic? If that book was romantic, why am I not like king of romance in your life?
Well, because you tricked me.
Oh,
you used to be.
Trick me.
You used to write me poetry.
Roses are red, violets are not.
No, not even shitty poetry. No. You used to like profess your love. You used to hold my hand.
Oh, I did not. That's a lie. I used to go out and do things. I didn't hold your hand.
You did in the very beginning. You held my
contact.
hand.
Ooh.
Yeah. No, you tricked me. And I think there's a difference between romance and actual physical contact. I think there's a lot to be. There was a lot of like reading between the lines here, and I know that I don't mean that literally, but like, you know, the bantering was spot on. Like all day long, those two were going at each other in the cutest way, and they felt appreciated, right? Because of it, it helped build their bond, even if it's just, you know, a trust level situation. And I think, you know, he felt that from the actual very beginning with her, because that's how she got the job, right? He didn't need an assistant. He had Becky for how long? Poor Becky, you know, is a little bit of a bitch, and you know, we all are. We all are. But like, he didn't want her as an assistant. He hired this lady he didn't know but for 5 minutes, and they escaped some kerfuffle together. You know what I mean? And so I thought there was a lot of romance in here. There was a lot of pining. There is a lot of tension. There are a lot of sparks. I'm excited. The slow burn isn't for me for like, you know, 3 books, but a book and a half of slow burn, I'll take it.
Yeah.
Nicole, take notes. Nicole, if you're listening, I hope book 2 has a little bit less slow burn.
I like it. All right. So then on to spice.
I'm going to give it a 5 points on 1 star. Because it's a 5 point to just one single, because you can't give none.
1 hot pepper.
One, not even a hot pepper.
Green pepper.
Like one green.
It's like 1 tomato.
Pepper.
Yeah.
There's the spice. I've had more spice in my sister's mashed potatoes.
They come from a bag.
I have nothing else to add to this. I can't contribute in a positive way for this. I apologize. Don't get me wrong. Just because the spice wasn't there doesn't mean that I disliked the book. It just meant that, hey, it didn't tick that box.
Right.
Kelly, did you visit the spice rack for this? Did you get like coriander and is that? I don't even know if that is a spice. I'm just shouting out words now. Coriander.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just gave it a 1. I think it was, you know, very PG less. So, which is fine. You know, it wasn't meant to be. I think it wasn't meant to be like a super spicy book at all, which was fine. I think had the author tried to throw a bunch of spice in there, it probably wouldn't have fit well with the overall vibe and aesthetic of the book.
Okay, I agree.
Yeah. Same here for me for spice. I did a 1 for the same thing. There really isn't any real spice in it, which is fine. I would say there's possibly even less spice than I expected, because I expected a teeny bit of spice just based off of it being kind of a rom-com genre. A lot of rom-com books do have some spice in them. So I expected maybe a little bit of spice. There isn't any. It was fine. I didn't miss it because there was tons of comedy to make up for the spice not being there.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I agree. The spice was a 1 for me. There were some glances, there was some naughty thoughts, there were some innuendos, there was one solid kiss.
It was, again, one of them was pretending during that kiss for their life.
Yeah, it was still a good kiss. So yeah, the spice wasn't really there for this book, but I did, like you said, Mari, I think it was, I didn't miss it. I was fully entertained otherwise. I'm ready for book 2. If book 2 was on Kindle Unlimited, I probably would have read it by now. The only thing stopping me is that I have the physical book, and that requires a whole different set of skills.
You got to carry that book with you. You got to pull it out. You got to use ye old bookmark.
Right.
I think it's on Everand already.
Oh, I don't know. I couldn't find it. I couldn't find an audiobook on Libby. Like, even just searching generically to be on a wait list. But that doesn't mean it doesn't exist. It could be.
I did see an audiobook on Libby under Harris County. But it's like ridiculous multi-month waiting period for it.
That was an important part of the experience for me. Like, if I had physically read the first book, I don't know that I would have gotten through it. I do feel that as interestingly autotone, like not monotone, I want to say like automate, like she almost sounded like AI. I don't know who this narrator is, but her voice and her dialect was so interesting to me, and it actually made my listening experience. If any other author had read that book, or any other narrator had read that book out loud, I don't know that it would have piqued my interest quite as much as it did. So shout out to the narrator, whose name I don't have in front of me.
I'm trying to pull it up now. Please give me a name.
I definitely want to read the sequel, but it's one of those things where I'm not going to rush out and buy the Kindle version so I can read it now. I'll wait until it either becomes available, or I know Mari bought the hardcover, so maybe when I'm home for an extended period of time and I can read the hardcover, but it's not something I'm going to jump on right away.
Yeah. I pre-ordered it, the hardcover or the paperback. I was like, as soon as they did that release date, I was like, well, pre-ordering it.
Yeah, and honestly, it's such a book trophy. Oh wait, that's a whole section. My bad. Taking a step back.
M. Eldridge, M. Eldridge is the narrator.
Kudos to her.
Yeah.
M. Eldridge, you did a fantastic job. And I went back to make sure that I finished it. Like, I could have just bought the book, right? But no, I needed to finish the audio experience, and it was just as great the second time around. 10 out of 10.
The cover was done by Elizabeth Turner Stokes. What did we think of the cover in terms of either would it have grabbed your attention and or did it do a good job of giving what's going to be inside the book? What do you think, Kelly? No, Jonathan. I'm sorry. Jonathan's been first.
Jonathan. Yeah.
Oh, I liked it. I liked it a lot. I like the font. The font is what was striking to me. It was straightforward to the point. I also like the idea that there's that little ribbon on it. Instant #1 New York Times bestseller. I like when books do that. I think more books should do that, even if it's just like some BS. In that circle or ribbon, you should put something on there that just grabs it, that makes like make up an award, best seller in my mom's kitchen, something like that. I felt like the background color, the foundational color was great. It was that reverse print vibe. I like the aesthetic, the jar with the books, the manuals almost there, the places you can tell that they're training it's a whole thing. Like, you're cared for. The people who are there helping him, the malevolent guard, he takes care of the people who are in his charge, right? And I get that vibe from this. And then in the upper right hand corner sits Kingsley.
Help!
So,
I love this so much.
I'm gonna give the cover of this book is getting 5.
Ooh.
Wow.
I enjoyed it. I'm gonna go out on a limb here and I'm just gonna cast my guess here is that I know that it's got to have a better than 3 score from Mari, only because she kept putting it into her TBR because of the cover of the book. So anyway, okay, I digress. Kelly, what did you think of the cover?
So I gave this cover a 4. because it reminds me a lot. Some of the great comedy books I've read, great comedy, fantasy, and sci-fi books I've read, it has a lot of similarities to those covers. So it reminds me a lot of the covers from some books like the Myth series by Robert Len Asprin. Reminds me a lot of Bring Me the Head of Prince Charming, which was a book done by Roger Zelazny. So it has a lot of those vibes to it. It has a lot of the funny little individual elements that draw your attention. So yeah, I thought it was a pretty good cover. It definitely would have piqued my interest and got me to look inside of it for sure at the bookshop.
Yeah, I agree. For me, the cover was a 5. It looks like it's a comedic, lighthearted fantasy romp, and that's what it is. I mean, that's the cover looks like that. The cartooniness of it, the font they used, it feels like, you know, a little spoofy thing of like a D&D campaign or something. Like it has those vibes, and then even just the actual title, Assistant to the Villain, instantly makes me think of The Office. Like it's a you know, instant reference to that in my brain. So either one of those things would have made me pick it up. I don't think I actually noticed Kingsley initially. It wasn't until after I read the book when I was reading the book the first time and I went back to was looking at the cover. I'm like, oh yeah, there's Kingsley. But I did not initially see him. But yeah, it's a 5. Like, beautiful. Well done.
I agree wholeheartedly. I, again, had the trophy part of this book cover is it just makes it better for me. And the fact that it's not just the cover, like, I don't know, Mari or anybody, if anybody's looked at the back of it, but like the synopsis on the back is, you know, there's a parchment roll at the top, assistant wanted. Like it's so well themed. Kingsley's on the spine with his help sign. Help.
He's on all 3 sides. Yeah.
Ugh, I love it so much.
He's on all 4 sides in the inside.
Oh yeah. He's inside our heart.
And you know he's got something to say. You know he's got tea to spill. I'm waiting for it. Something's gonna
I'm sure that'll evolve.
I am bursting. I love it so much. It's so cute. What's the character say in the minute? It's so cute. It's so cute. Like I just can't. I physically can't. I love it so much.
I'm fully anticipating that Kingsley is actually the evil king's son.
Me too. Yes, that's what I think too.
I don't know that the king is evil.
I don't think he's.
Oh, he absolutely is.
I don't know. I think he's just
nobody thinks they're evil.
I think he's just goal oriented. I don't know that he's evil, but I am interested to think of it from, I was thinking about this earlier. Assistant to the villain, was the assistant to the villain her father?
Yeah. Yeah, I was going to say, if I think the king is evil and I think her dad is evil, if nothing else, for the same reason that they're willing to give her like a thing to the dude who like harassed her. The blacksmith dude. Ugh.
I get very culty vibes. I get very culty vibes from the king and like how he presents as this, you know, benevolent, all look at all I've done for you. Look at how I protect you. Look at how, you know, we're going to defeat this villain, you know, this bad guy. And even Evie touches on this in the middle of the book. Well, but like, what has the villain? Why is he the villain? Like, can you name one thing?
Yeah, he's definitely killed people.
Well, and I think again, Evie mentions she, you know, when shit's going down, you know, and I think it's with her father, the line she says, "We're all monsters in the end," right? So the perspective of the journey, everyone probably feels they're doing what they feel is right or just or for the betterment of whatever. And it could be that King Benedict thinks or strongly feels he's doing some good. And there's definitely more to the story, right? We don't have enough information for what went down with him and the villain initially, other than that dude was ready to kill him because of the power that he had. No ifs, ands, or buts. For that reason, I'm thinking he's not quite such a good guy, but like I'm not king either to have to make those decisions.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, everyone always believes they're the good guy in their own story.
Right.
Everyone is convinced that they're doing the right thing.
The king was willing to give her to the blacksmith guy. The king imprisoned Tristan. He imprisoned Tristan for like a month before his powers even really manifested. I mean, that's pretty bad. And I will also say, Tristan, those people that he's killing and torturing, whatever, are the ones that the king sent to kill him. So, I mean, if someone's out to kill you, I think you
don't know,
can defend yourself. But we do have just one point of view, really.
We don't know what Tristan's powers are.
A little bit, yeah. Go ahead, Kelly.
I mean, I think the defining moment, for sure, if you thought that maybe the king was actually, sort of a good guy, was once y'all said, he was willing to treat Evie as an object. That's the definement of evil, right? In some instances, is treating people as being less than humans.
Well, I think that he needs her. He needs her to complete something in a more ritualistic way. That's why it felt like he was very demanding that he receive her remains. Afterwards, kill her however you want. That's your reward. You get to get even, just, do whatever. But I need the body. I need the body for something else, something in addition to. And again, I don't think we have anywhere near the full scope of the villain's powers and an understanding of what he's capable of doing. We also don't know the role that Kingsley plays.
Right.
Kingsley might be the proper heir to the throne. And, so there's a lot. I think there's way more at play than is being let on. And if it's a 3-book series, is it a 3-book series or is it going to go beyond that?
I don't know. There's at least the 3rd book announced, but there's no cover or anything announced for it. But there's at least 2 books that are written and published. And then the 3rd one is in the work. It's been announced. Like, I don't remember the exact date, but it is coming. The 3rd book it doesn't even have a title yet, but it has a potential release date of September of 2025. Okay, so I put it out on our interwebs for what suggestions on what we should do for our rapid fire. And Crybell suggested we do Game of Thrones. So we're going to do the Game of Thrones TV show. Is it a kissing book? Oh, no. Stop the presses. Assistant to the villain. Is it a kissing book?
I'm so confused, guys.
Everybody hold for editing. Oh,
Jonathan, is it a kissing book?
It is not a kissing book. I dropped it through the Romantilator 3000. I think I'm going with 3000 for the number there. And I came out with a no and the general score of 33%. And I was trying to be generous and bump it up a few points wherever I could. How about you, Kelly? Is it a kissing book?
It's really kind of tough because I feel like the villain was going to keep on trucking with its plans no matter what. But at the same time, because at what point did the romance actually begin to affect the plot, right? Like, that's the question. So I think I would have to go with yes, because towards the end, the romance became much more central to the characters' actions and motivations.
Okay. I had to say no. I don't think it's a kissing book. I think the romance that's in it is great. I like it.
Don't laugh. Don't check yourself before you wreck yourself, Ashley.
Was that a gasp?
I'm sorry, finish. Go ahead.
I think that the fantasy was great. I think the book was great, but I don't think that their romantic entanglement was necessary to the plot. I think if she had met him and he offered her the job, she needed the job, she became his good assistant, and this whole mystery of who's the mole, all this stuff would have happened. And I don't know that it would have happened that differently if they weren't actually romantically involved.
If you remove her from the story.
No, not remove her. I mean, she's still there. She's still there, but they don't have to be romantically entangled. Like, if she just worked for him.
If there was no romance between them, he would have not treated her any differently than he treated Rebecca. He wouldn't have gone to her house. He wouldn't have cared about her sister. He certainly wouldn't have come to the party to save her.
Good point.
Is it my turn?
Yes.
This was not a kissing book, you guys. I love everything about this book. I love the romance that was in it, and I love the fantasy that was in it, and I do feel it has romantasy vibes, but this book 1, is not a kissing book. If their paths had not crossed, their lives would have continued well and just fine. There never would have been a mole. There wouldn't have been a bomb. None of these other things. Now, I will say that because of her accepting the job and Dad being his own, doing whatever he felt was right, escalated what was happening. But I don't think the story would have stopped for Evie. The story would have been monotonous and day to day, and the struggle bus would have continued. But Mr. Tristan, the villain, would have just gone along on his handy dandy way, and he wouldn't be talking to his siblings and his dad probably wouldn't have been kidnapped from the party, and Evie would still be taking care of the household, with the shirt on her back, kind of thing. The dad still would have been
autopilot.
It would have been autopilot. The story would have continued without their potential romance. I don't think I'm going to have the same answer in book 2, and for that I'm really excited. But this book I do not feel was a kissing book. I think the villain would have continued on his villainous ways, and the king would have gone on his villainous ways, and Evie's life would have sucked.
Yeah.
So there's romance, and he cared about her from the very beginning. I missed that in the first read. I didn't catch the ink part. But there's romance, and there are feelings, and he feels very, very deeply for her. But I don't think it's a kissing book.
So if he didn't feel deeply for her, then the plot would have fallen apart?
The
story never would have happened?
The romance part of it. Evie's story would not have happened the way that it did. I think the villain's story would have continued as it was. So it doesn't stop entirely. It doesn't not go anywhere. I think his story just continues. Hers does not. So for that, it's...
Well, I mean, I guess I looked at it as the plot of this book would have fallen apart without the romance. Because if you're saying he was in love with her from the beginning, then the plot never even would have happened without the romance.
There were certainly feelings in the beginning. He recognized her innocence and her trustworthiness. I feel like for some reason he felt her worthy of protecting and not just.
You know what?
See, I think this is another one like the Spell Shop, where I think you get caught up on Evie being the main character, so you're looking at it through the lens of her and not through his lenses. Just like with the Spell Shop, you look at it through her without considering how that Laren was, head over heels in love with her, and how central, that was to the plot.
But it's the story itself. If you remove Evie from the story, it doesn't impact the villain's life trajectory,
Does
right?
it?
So no, he's still gonna keep.
He
wouldn't have gone and met with his dad at that party.
Right.
He didn't need
Correct.
to, though. Like, that's not part of what his end goals are. It's going to make him a better person in the long run. It's probably going to tie up some loose ends, and we might get a happily ever after when this is all said and done. But I don't think it's integral to his path. And the path that he still feels very much that he's on, he recognizes that he's in love with her. And for that reason, he's smart enough to know that he's not good enough for her and try to let her go. It's just not how this book ends.
I think it's a good hand-holding book.
It's a good hand-holding book.
It's cozy.
I'm going to change. I think it is a kissing book. I'm going to change. I think it's a kissing book. And the reason I say that is when you guys were bringing up and talking about the ink thing, like the fact that he gave her the special protective ink that he hadn't given anybody else from the beginning means that he felt when she was in trouble, and there's things that he did because of that with her that he didn't do with any of his other employees. There's a tie that he had with her that he didn't have with anybody else. And so I don't know that the story would have happened without that tie. Okay, so I think it is a kissing book. I flip-flopped. All right, so moving on to Rapid Fire. We put it out to the social webs, social media, and we had asked people what we should do for our rapid fire segment for this show. And Crybell on our Facebook page said we should do Game of Thrones TV show. So, Game of Thrones, guys, is it a kissing book?
I have no idea. I've never watched a minute of Game of Thrones intentionally. It is my life's objective to not watch. The only takeaway I have from Game of Thrones is Pineapple Dog.
The direwolf, you call it the Pineapple Dog. Yes.
Yeah, the Stark emblem of the direwolf. Yeah. We had a whole fight about a t-shirt that I have. He's like, you have a pineapple dog. And I was like, what the fuck are you talking about? It was like an almost blowout fight. He ended up running into the room and like trashing my drawers, pulling everything out.
Not like it wasn't like a violent trashing of the drawers. It was like I just scrambled to find a t-shirt.
I'm pretty sure you yanked all the t-shirts out of the drawer
to show you Pineapple Dog. But it wasn't like I didn't like upturn a dresser and like rage and Hulk out of my shirt. Come on. But that would have been sexy though.
Kelly.
Game of Thrones, the TV show, is such a mixed bag now. You know, it's like a cultural phenomenon. Everyone was talking about Game of Thrones. Game of Thrones was such a big thing. And then that last season, and now nobody talks about it. It's like it never happened. That's how bad it was.
We're all traumatized.
Yeah, PTSD.
No, I'm so bitter about how that series went in the last season that I don't want to give it anything that could be considered praise.
So no.
That's respectable.
Okay.
My decisions are sounding better and better.
For me, I would have to agree with Kelly. I don't think it's a kissing book. I think there's a ton of stuff that happens in it. There's a lot of intrigue and battles and armies and, subterfuge and behind the scenes things or whatever. But I don't feel like there was any overarching romance that had a huge effect. So I would say, no, it's not a kissing book.
Yeah, I have to agree. I have not read any of the books. I couldn't get past chapter 1 in the first book for this part of the series. I did not get any, mate bond, I'll burn the world for her or him. There were definitely couples that were very steamy and, there was a lot that we saw that we wanted to see. And I know the ending left us all upset. Unequivocally upset. Mm-hmm. Now, I think House of the Dragon could have a vein of a kissing book, like the whole Rhaenyra and Daemon storyline, and I haven't read those books either. I'm probably not going to. I see that far more as being a kissing book, but I do not see Game of Thrones, the TV series, as a kissing book at all, in no way, shape, or form.
I guess you could say, the only defense you could say that it is a kissing book would be that if Jaime and Cersei, despite the ickiness of it, if they weren't in love, then none of the things would have happened. The entire show would have taken place because Bran never would have got pushed off. Everything.
Yeah.
None of it would have happened.
Yeah.
For better or worse.
Yeah, that's the best. That's the best I have for it. But even that, fizzles out.
Yeah.
So, no.
And it should have ended. It should have ended with Jaime killing her. That's how it should have ended.
George, take notes.
Yeah.
George.
Jaime needed some kind of a redemption arc, and he was heading in that direction, and then it just didn't. It just went out in left field. Daenerys' story went out in left field. The whole story just imploded. Ugh. Yeah. So there's that. All right. Anything else we want to talk about before we wrap it up? All right, thanks for listening to Of Swords and Soulmates. Before we go, make sure to check out the show notes, rate, review, and subscribe to us on your podcast app of choice. It helps others to find us. Follow us on Instagram at Of Swords and Soulmates, or join our Facebook page, Of Swords and Soulmates, or check out our website, ofswordsandsoulmates.com. And we're also available on YouTube and TikTok with the same username. If you'd like to offer a suggestion for a future rapid fire question, give us your opinion, tell us how you think we're absolutely wrong or that you agree with us, please reach out to us on any of those methods. If you'd like to read along with us as we prep for a new episode, follow us on Goodreads at Of Swords and Soulmates. We hope you'll join us in 2 weeks for our next episode when we review Radiance by Grace Draven.